I was meeting with my therapist a couple of weeks ago, and we got to the end of our session. This is a new therapist. I'm on like session number 4 or 5, the last one, and we just didn't hit it off. And so it was perfectly fine to go and look for another one. And we got to the end of the session. He's like, Kareem, what are we going to work on? And I sat there and I was like, I'm not 100% sure. I thought that was your job to kind of help us figure that out. And by the way, I've had a regular check-in or session with my therapist for the last probably 3 years now since COVID. I got a therapist and been working on my own mental health. And at one point I was like, what is the purpose of these? Why do I still have them? And I went into Bard or ChatGPT and asked them, I was like, what do you do when you don't have anything to talk about? And it said, still have a check-in. It's good to build rapport. Maybe something will come up. And so I would encourage you all, if you don't have a therapist or regular therapy practice, to kind of check it out. Definitely helped in taking care of my own mental health. But we landed on this question of, he asked me, what are your blind spots? And I sat there and I was like, well, if I knew what they were, they wouldn't be blind spots. And so I told him I'd go and ask my wife and I'd reflect on it a little bit more. And a couple things came up. I'll tell you all, I got this text from my wife when I asked her, and she said, you zone out mid-conversation to focus on work, and then you respond minutes later a little confused. I added the little in there to make it sound a little bit less bad. You debate for the sake of debating during instances where it's not always helpful. You don't always read people well enough to know how they're feeling. You can come off too rigid or cold sometimes. And you could be too hard on yourself when it's not that serious. Ouch. But they're true, right? They're blind spots. I didn't agree with all of them initially or immediately, but I guess that's the beauty of a blind spot. We're not actively aware of them when we're doing them. And so it surfaced them for me. And then coincidentally had a leadership like offsite retreat and got asked a question like that again. And as I reflected, I said, maybe my ambition sometimes could be a blind spot, because I think that things could get done a lot faster, or they're a lot easier than they actually are, and then could find myself in a circle of biting off a little bit more than I can chew. And so there was that. And then the flexibility is not one of my strengths. I am very structured and routine, and it helps me perform at a really high level and get a lot done. But sometimes can come across as being a little bit intimidating and off-putting to folks around. And so these are areas that I know I need to work on. I know I need to get better at them, and they are what they are. They don't make me a worse person or a better person because I'm developed or not in them, but I need to be aware when I'm having conversations and interactions with other people that these things exist, and they're areas I need to work on. So question this week, what are your blind spots? And the importance of it, again, is to just make sure that we're actively aware of these things. So when someone tells us, it's not a surprise. And I can tell you my response to my wife was, thank you. I may have heard it before, I may have thought of it in passing, but never to the extent of knowing just how impactful some of these things are. So I appreciate you all continuing to join me on this journey. We're now at almost 3,700 subscribers to the Learning Loop. I appreciate you. Let's continue to go out there and get after it.